Warning. The following program is recorded live and is not intended for children. This program may at any time contain graphic or disturbing content, harsh or abusive language, violence, nudity, hate speech, and other triggering topics that may be distressing for some viewers and against the terms of service for most mainstream websites. The themes and opinions expressed in this program should be considered psychotic and a disinformation campaign, and should not be used for political or academic purposes. Facts are not checked, and no sources or citations will be provided. Should you choose to redistribute, please do so only in good faith. Thank you again for joining us. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome back to Rainbows and Razor Blades, a show from the void. By the Gregorian calendar, it is currently the 5th day in the 12th month, the month of December, in the year of the Lord, 2022. By the revolutionary calendar, it is currently the 2nd week, 5th day, in the month of Frimaire, the month of frost, and therefore the 75th solar day of the calendar year. Okay. Well, welcome back. I think today we're just going to jump right into it. It's already nighttime. I usually do this in the morning, but it has been one of the worst dysphoria days, and I won't go down the rabbit hole on this episode of what that looks like. But let's just get right the fuck into it. I got no time to fuck around. All right, let me just point this the right way. You'll dread it. All right, let's check it out. What's the top news stories today? Twitter closed offices until Monday as its employees quit in droves. Makes sense. I mean, they're falling apart. I mean, it's not a surprise. People who want to stay will try to stay, and who do you think will have the last tweet? It's pretty crazy, you know? Like, sites just go out of business. They just flicker out, you know? Every sex worker's catalog gets just annihilated. Is there a way to hide this? This is an ad. Amazon small business promotion. Can we block this? Definitely block. It just didn't block the whole thing. Whatever. We blocked the girl's picture. Poor lady. Elon Musk loses $100 billion in net worth as Tesla's stock prices plummet. Whatever, dude. Cortez Masto defeats Laxton, Nevada, handing Democrats control of the Senate. Was this the one that they didn't want to, like, affirm and say was, like, legit? They had to get sued into, like, announcing it or something? I don't know if it's the same one. I just know that was, like, somewhere that was happening. But yeah, handing Democrats control of the Senate, it's expected because probably the Republicans have the House and the president is a limp noodle or he's a limp dick that talks a lot. I mean, those are your two options of presidents these days. That's who you get to choose as your fake head of state if you're American. Good luck. I mean, you could believe in it. I mean, you really could. You could believe in Santa Claus, too. U.S. opens antitrust probe into Ticketmaster. Yeah, they were talking about doing that a while ago. Yeah, it's 17 days ago. What are we on? The top of the month? Jeez, man. We need the past 24 hours. Accused Arizona cult leader has 20 wives as young as 9 years old. That's a problem. Possibly married own daughter, FBI alleges. Yeah, that's a problem. Let's see what color the man was. Was he made out of clay? I seriously doubt it. He kind of does look like he's made out of clay, but that's not what I meant by the statement. That's not what I meant. But bro, like, what's up with this dude? Like, I mean, I get it too. Like, 20 wives, that makes a lot of sense. 9-year-olds, that does not make a lot of sense. That's a problem. Like, one is a victory, the other is moral degeneracy that cannot be tolerated. Oh my goodness. It was some Handmaid's Tale shit. That's wild. Heavenly Father. Wow. Absolutely bonkers. Power outages could last days after shooting at substations. So now they're officially saying it was a shooting. There's people trying to push a disinformation. Well, it could be the truth, but they're pushing it, and it's a disinformation campaign because that they are pushing it. It's a controlled story, and the controlled story is that allegedly and with no proof of this, that some lady tweeted at the same time that this happened, or roughly the same time that this happened, that like she knows why it happened. And because nothing else anywhere in the world was going on, and the town is just kind of small, it was because of the child drag show, which like I just don't buy for an instant. So let's see if they're still showing this story. There's no proof of that. I'm in the construction industry, and lead times on several electrical components are 12 plus months. I would assume at this point it would be. Well, even if that's true, they can get the power on much quicker than that. It's just going to be fucking spotty, and it's not going to be good. But yeah, it could be out for a few days, and in December, that's not great. So, domestic terrorist investigation. They're not going to announce that, dude. I mean, like, yes. Definitely yes. But they're not going to announce that because what are they going to do? They're going to scan through everybody who's ever plotted against the power grid. I've plotted against the power grid. I've written papers about plotting against the power grid, and I'm serious. I've written white papers about this. They were non-professional college white papers, but they were, these were academic research into like their security control and data acquisition centers, for example. We're going to go shoot it with bullets. No, you don't need to do that. You just need to hack into their systems. And circa 2010, this was a viable option. If you were planning some sort of domestic terrorist attack, for example, as is being portrayed to have been what the perpetrators were about. Like, it's not about catalytic converters and money, which it probably isn't if firearms were involved, but it could be. I mean, it could, like, and this is something that I put forward yesterday. Until we have proof it was a shooting, what's to stop us from assuming that it wasn't just theft? Maybe it was some dude who wanted your catalytic converter or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, he's just gone, saws it off. There he walks away with it. But if it is terrorism, why are we thinking that it's domestic terrorism, and why aren't we thinking that it's an attack from foreign soil? Like, why aren't we thinking that this is like the Ukrainians, right? Like, why don't we think that it's their white ethno-nationalists trying to get us to go to war? Like, it could be anything. It could be anything. And honestly, I'll be really honest with you. Oh my God, we're on my Christ account. That's funny. Yeah, well, let's just log out. This is my only account. Now we're doxxed. Or I rigged it so that looks like my account, but that actually is my account. I say a bunch of dumb shit on there. Mostly I talk about the capital city of my state. I pretend that I'm in the capital city. And then I talk about how we have to be more left. Or like, yeah, that's basically what I do. And that's basically what everyone with an account that does. But it's funny because it destroys the joke that I've been telling for years. Like, oh, if I had a Reddit account. But I actually do. It's a very old account. It's like a 9-year-old account. I forgot I had it, and I logged in recently because I had to check whether or not that certain stories were being censored depending on if you had an account. So I had to log in, right? Because otherwise I'm not logging in. Like, you guys haven't seen me log in. I don't want to support this site with a login. You don't see me trying to vote. Anyways, I think it's all a bunch of hogwash. But I was logged in, so you can dox me. You can see all the stupid shit I've said. I work around substations, and it's crazy. An older guy was just telling me last week how vulnerable they are to just this kind of attack. Yeah, and I mean, like, we should try to listen. One of the reasons I put forward a white paper when I did about the control acquisition, the SCADA system that we have, is because it was vulnerable to attack then. It became very obvious, I think, in 2004. Let's look this up. When the last time that there was I think it was like a 2004 Canada blackout. Boop, 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 boop. Blackout hits Ontario and 7 U.S. states. That was 2014. But this was, when was this? 2004? Blackout was preventable. Affected all of, yeah, see, look at this. Like, oh, we're so vulnerable. We've always been vulnerable. We never fixed this problem. Right? There was actually a whole entire, here it is. The worst blackout in history, though. This was 2003. Okay, I was a little bit off. Right? Crazy, right? You want to know how I remember this? Spoiler alert. I lost power. We all did. I mean, it was like the worst power outage. Anyways, we've been vulnerable for quite a while. There was also the 2005 investigation into hacking and the demonstration of was that 2005? There was like a Homeland Security like the investigation. I don't know if it was Homeland Security. I just have to assume that that's who would have jurisdictional, like the jurisdiction to do this. But in conjunction with the CIA, did launch a probe into, whether or not we were too vulnerable for our power grids. And the answer that they came up with is we're a sitting duck. Like if someone wants to attack us, that is not the only critical infrastructure that they could hit. They could also hit our sewers. They could hit our water. But the power, yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, like it's not hard to understand that that's a vulnerability. It doesn't take a brainiac to plot against it. Now, how easy it is for a maniac to just go and do it, especially if a bunch of different maniacs are doing it all at once. Yeah, I mean, you get to the point where that's happening, and that's like, it's domestic terrorism. And so watching who's talking about it in certain ways is how you're going to build a map and a networked intelligence understanding of who could even be capable of coming up with the idea to try to do something like this. And you start there, and then you go 1 degree further. And 1 degree further is like people who have actually researched. Then you go 1 degree further. People who had the means to do it. Then you go 1 degree further. People who had the means to do it and talked about it and had collaboration with other people who are already on watch lists. Then you go a level further. People who were in the area of the blackout at the time. Then you go a level further. Who has connections to people who could have been there at that time. Then you go a level further. And eventually you have a suspect list that's like, it's not that many people. Like, go play the game The Akinator, right? You guys know The Akinator. They broke it. They took it off the internet. I don't know why they did that, but they did. Probably because people were like shilling porn stars into it, but I don't really know why they actually destroyed the algorithm. It doesn't work anymore. But the old Akinator was like, basically, if you have just a yes or no question that is specific enough and you can alienate everything that isn't something or something else, like, was this character fictional? Boom. Right there, all you need to know is that if the answer is yes, all characters that are not fictional are gone, and if it's no, all that aren't, the other side. So right there, the first question will ask you, like, is it a fictional character? Here, I'll show you what it asks you. And but I've tried to do this on my live stream before, and it doesn't work anymore. They broke this site. They also, like, maybe tried to, like, sell it off and, like, make it into something else. Like, it looks the same, but I swear to God, it doesn't work anymore. Hello, I'm the Akinator. No, you're not. You're a deceiver. Think about a real character. Select the game of characters. This is not what it originally was. Originally, you could just type whatever you wanted to it. Is your character a girl? Yes. Is your character from Dragon Ball Z? No. Is your character personally known to you? No. Is your character real? No. Don't worry, I'm not going to do this for long. Does your character have dark hair? I don't remember. We'll just say no. We'll just see what it comes up with. Does your character have a human head? Well, my character is a human. We'll go with Misty from Pokemon. Yes, she's a redhead. Does she live in water? Oh, she like kind of does. Misty doesn't live in water though. Is she Japanese? She's definitely Japanese. Does she go to school? No, she's a Pokemon trainer. She's from One Piece? No. Is she American? No, she's Japanese. You already know that. Does she work for Subway? No, that's an advertisement. I know for that fact that's an advertisement. I'm not falling for that. She's from Naruto? No. Does your character wear a tie? No. It should have already guessed. It should already know it's Misty, but like I said, they broke the Akinator. Does your character have powers? Jesus fucking Christ, man. Just make a guess. See what I mean, guys? They ruined the Akinator. Yes, it's related to Pokemon. Yes. Jesus Christ. There it is. It guessed it in 21. So it guesses it is in exactly 20. Right? It's like, that's the game. 20 questions. And then the 21st question was obviously an ad for Subway. Right? So it's like, oh, look, it's Misty. Oh, it's Misty. Yes, it's Misty. No, I'm kidding. That's actually one of my favorite names, and it's one of the main character names that I've stolen. I've also stolen Satoshi, which is the other one, Ash. So that's the Akinator. So you do that, but you do that with domestic terrorist roulette. You see what I mean? It's not that fucking difficult to figure out who your bad guys are. Like, who's your suspect list, right? Not even the people you have to honeypot into it with the, like, January 6th type of psyop. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who willfully put themselves into it. Not your bullshit controlled opposition group like the Oath Keepers or whatever other shill story they're pushing. I'm talking about the guy who, like, you did not hear about the guy that had 9-year-old wives and 20 wives. You have not heard about him until today. You also have not heard about the billionaire class of, like, white ethno-nationalists or the billionaire class of, like, just general industrialists, cattle farmers, whoever the fuck, right? Like, you don't know these people's names, and you don't know who they're willing to pay to make their statements, but those people have something to lose, right? So we can eliminate them probably. So we're looking at people who are motivated, have mostly nothing to lose, are probably disenfranchised but not powerless, obviously, if they have access to weapons, which isn't really a high bar to meet. A lot of people have access to weapons, maybe everyone who chooses to. So then we look at that. Who has access to weapons? Who has firearms proficiency? And like, it doesn't take long before your suspect list is like a couple of thousand. And like, with something like this, something this serious, now you're looking at like rental cars. You're looking at like license plates. You're looking at like, I don't know, like fucking satellites that can zoom in on the on a dime, allegedly, right? Like, you're looking at like high atmosphere fucking satellite, like, who knows, right? Like, you're looking at like, mostly what you're looking at is like phone data, assuming that they're smart enough to assuming that they're not smart enough to leave their phones at home, right? So you create a network list of like who done it, and they know that you can't prove it in court, and you know that you're not getting that warrant. The judge is probably in on it for all we know, right? Like, wherever this took place, whoever did this is probably not going to be held accountable for this, because it's the type of thing that, like, well, maybe they will. Maybe I'm wrong and I'll eat my words. But for people to try to put forward the idea that it's like this very specific group up to this very specific counterposition that doesn't otherwise maybe exist, right? Electrical power engineer here. Our utility experienced a similar incident several years ago, and I wanted to share a few takeaways. Utilities usually do have reserve equipment. That's true, they do. The labor involved, and like I said, I've done a white paper on this, so I've done quite a bit of research into power grid stuff. The labor involved and with moving and replacing equipment is substantial and would normally take several weeks full time to complete. For example, moving a large power transformer may require road closures, coordinate with rail. I'm just going to read this normally. This is actually great information. Oh, even if it's CIA propaganda. Coordination with railroads, movement of overhead lines, etc. Installation of a new transformers requires specially trained engineers or technicians to oversee filling the transformers with thousands of gallons of insulating oil under a vacuum to prevent moisture. This is fascinating. And requires electricians to reconnect or install new control wires, cables, overhead voltage connections, etc. There are numerous testing and commissioning activities before it can be energized, and typically requires a soak, time being energized at high voltage without load flow. Jeez, man, this is a lot. I'm really into this stuff. They will likely work around the clock to accomplish this, but if there are any labor shortages or difficulties with acquiring smaller connections or hardware, it just adds time. This happened in a rural area, which typically would not have nearly as many switching options, which is to say the local network will have fewer paths. I mean, that's pretty obvious. The article mentioned it was not random, which suggests to me that someone with knowledge of the local electrical system, maybe. But I mean, like, that's not hard information to get. This would almost certainly be a relatively small group of people, and my guess, a disgruntled employee or possibly a customer. Like, that's a better guess than the story that they were putting forward in my last episode. Regarding, because they were shilling the fuck out of that, and someone asked and they got downvoted for it. Who's paying for this? Like, who is paying for this? Who is paying to construct that enemy? They're like, oh, this is exactly the same as the other story that's the top story today about the trans stuff. And I wouldn't comment on it this much if it didn't have to do with trans issue. I'm also not going to sit here and pretend like the trans issue is identical to the childhood grooming story. Sorry, the child cross-dressing drag queen hour, whatever you want to call it. The sexual degenerate menaces. I mean, that's how it's framed, right? And that is put forward the same way that pedophiles, groomers, and transgender people are portrayed by the right wing unto themselves, but also they want you to be is that the word? Apostatized? They want to indoctrinate you with that image. It's not the word, not apostatized. Apostolize? Is that the word? Let's look that up. Apostolize. Apostolize. Proclaim. Is that what that says? Did I spell it wrong? Why aren't we on fucking Google, dude? Fuck you, DuckDuckGo. I don't care if Google tracks me. At least it gives me the fucking results. It's an intransitive verb. That means obsolete. Proclaim, to act as an apostle. How is it obsolete? I just used it. I mean, I guess maybe it's obsolete. I guess I'm the only one that uses it. There's not really a lot of information on this, is there? Definitions and synonyms, sure. Can we hear it?
Apostolize.
Shit, sorry about that. I dropped my whole mic. Hold up.
Apostolize.
Apostolize. I'm saying it right. Apostolize is a verb. Can we just get a fucking definition, dude? I apostolize, he apostolize, he, she, me, wumbo.
Apostolize.
That's a, not Star Trek, SpongeBob joke. Bro, I don't need to get it conjugated. I need you to tell me what it means. I wanted the synonyms. I didn't want to have to click on a dictionary definition. Is to proclaim. Is that really it? I mean, I used it correctly. I just thought it was a little more complicated and nuanced than that. I thought it was more like a religious affectation or whatever the word is. Like, I thought it was like nuanced to being someone who's trying to like preach almost. Like, they're trying to preach you the image of what the menace looks like. They're like, this is the devil, right? I've seen the devil and this is he. Like, that's the same brimstone that they're trying to bring down upon us, right? Like, that they want the earth to swallow us up whole. They don't care whether or not that it's the, you know, this or that slur or the other slur. It's all against God, right? Like, that's how it's framed. And I'm trying to figure out who is paying to have the bots and the idiots who are indoctrinated by the bots shill the idea that the power grid getting hit was in any way related to the drag show. Like, it's just such a fucking stupid story, and it pissed me off because, like, who is putting that forward? Like, is it quote unquote my side of things? Like, was that done by like quote unquote the left, implying I'm on the left? I don't know. I do not know. The shooters are probably the same people that wouldn't support a robust, smart power grid. What does that even mean? Substation engineer here. They will bring in a mobile substation. Look, there's not a single comment on this about the theory about, not one. It was like they already hit everyone with the media spell, and then they just want us to pretend like it's gone. You see what I mean? Like, that's how you can tell it's fake. It's like they were blowing bubbles and smoke up our ass. Like, the most we have is accusations that it's terrorism, and like, fine, fair enough. That's fair. Like, it's the same, dude. This is what happens when you don't try domestic terrorism seriously. Dude, if people took domestic terrorism seriously, you fucking people, well, actually it'd be me, will be getting pulled out of your fucking beds in the middle of the night at gunpoint. Let me see your fucking hands. And they'd be running your fucking technology through their devices, making copies of everything that you write in your diary, and they'd be arresting you, not on thought crime, but they'd be arresting you, you know, for whatever the fuck that they wanted. Because they'd be quote-unquote taking it seriously. And they'd be building a case against you to make you defend it. Right? They'd accuse you of it without even having probable cause. Because that's what they did when they built all those cases that went nowhere. The first time when it was about, you know, Islamic terrorism, back in like 2002 to 2005. Like, that whole era. Iraq war, all that. Afghanistan war, all that. All that, and I mean all that. The military-industrial complex. The intelligence contractors industrial complex. All that shit. They'd be taking you out of your fucking homes and running your shit. You'd be crying about, oh, they didn't take it seriously. Oh, how could they not have prevented this? Oh, why weren't they raiding the compound? Why weren't they Ruby Ridge, this and that? Why didn't they just go do that? It's crazy. All right. Pope John Paul II. Is this like a rapper name? Covered up abuse by priests before becoming pope. That's literally his job. And the fact that people don't understand that that's what the job is, that's on them. The whole entire thing is one big ruckus about men raping boys and about God being in control. And part of that is putting the devil in little boys. And if you haven't made that connection in your head yet, then I don't know what to tell you. I do not know what to tell you. The devil has to be real. These men have to make it real. And it goes back much deeper with the cloth and the clergy than even I probably understand. But I know enough to know when there's a problem afoot. And the church's monolithic papistry, or whatever the hell it's called, papyrary, whatever the fuck it's called, patriarchy. Yeah, it's of course it's going to come under question of pedophilia. These men are all rapists, and if they aren't all individually rapists, then a couple of bad apples spoil the bunch. We were just following orders. CDC encourages people to wear masks. Of course they do. Florida deputy killed after officer's roommate, quote unquote, jokingly fires gun he thought was unloaded. It's a good joke, bro. What color were these cops? I see. Very surprising that it would be white police officers being featured in this story. Very, very surprising. What a hottie, though, right? Look at that good-looking hair. He looks like he could be in like a boy band. He can probably go join a boy band now that he's gonna get he's not gonna be an officer for long. But it was a real funny joke, though. Michael Levante sentenced. Well, the implication there is that he wasn't jokingly firing. It's probably that they were like drunk and shot each other or something. So who knows? Something. Michael Levante sentenced to 14 years in prison for stealing millions of dollars from clients. Who is he? This fucking guy. I do not know who he is. A disgraced attorney was sentenced to 14 years in prison in order to pay a bunch of money for embezzling. Was this like Trump's lawyer or something? They don't give lawyers 14 years, bro. Do they? I mean, like, maybe. He admitted to stealing millions of dollars from clients. I guess they do. That's a lot of money. His fraud was egregious. I mean, to wear a suit like that, you have to be an egregious person. Megachurch leader accused of torturing murdering adopted daughter. Wow, I wonder what color this megachurch leader was. One-eyed, one-eared, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-eared, flying purple people eater. We'll never know. Took too long to load. Oxford Dictionary's names goblin mode. It's word of the year. Goblin mode, huh? That sounds... I don't know how to make this sound not racist. This sounds like something that did not come out of white areas. Goblin mode? Who invented this? First seen on a tweet in 2009, goblin mode gained popularity in 2022 as people around the world emerged uncertainly from pandemic lockdowns. Given the year we've just experienced, goblin mode resonates with most of us. Is that what that's called? Goblin mode? I've heard of it like, yo, he going gob, bro. You going gob for real, bro. I've heard that kind of stuff. Goblin mode was overwhelming favorite, winning 93% with more than 340,000 votes. I wonder if this is all 4chan. Like when they like named Bodie McBoatface or whatever, whoever fucked with that. Like someone just like, I wonder if that's like a rigged thing. Megachurch leader accused of touching. I mean, obviously they're going to show the victim. She's dead, right? Yeah, she murdered. They wouldn't be able to show her if she wasn't murdered. Her face is only newsworthy if she's dead. See, this is another one. This is another dead girl. Otherwise, you can't show the face because, like, it's not HIPAA. There's not even really probably laws against it, but it's just really bad journalistic form. And there may actually be a laws against it that I just don't know of. It's just generally the right of the free press shall not be abridged. Adela's attorney, because of her advanced age, she does not represent it. So she was 70 years old. Oh, 49-year-old. Okay, that makes more sense. Letitia McCormick and her husband, Brian McCormick, first fostered 3 girls. I mean, this does sound very much like something that religious people would do. Because you'd have to be operating on malware, basically, is how I view this. Like, no normal person, even if sadistic, right? Non-religious sociopaths, we'll say, right? They will give violent and they will be controlling. But it won't be the type of thing that's like, they're not going to take away your needs, right? They might, right? Like it's happened. I mean, the toy box killer happened, right? But in general, as a theme, that type of antisocial isn't going to do this type of thing unless religion is behind it, because you have to have. And it isn't just the fact that he's the leader of the megachurch. It's the fact that he's in a church, because he really, if he believes in the rules of control under God, would be willing to go miles past what anyone with their eyes open to the truth and just live in life rather than being under religious indoctrination is going to see. It's like, we're torturing this girl. This is not ethically correct. Like, ethics and morals go out the window when it comes to religious people. And I bring up sociopaths because if you're a secular sociopath, probably this will not be your modus operandi, because there won't be that rigid ideology to fall back on to justify the very explicit type of torture and punishment, retributive shame, indoctrination. Like, you can't. It's like, it's almost Pavlovian what they're trying to create. They're like, you better fucking behave the way that we say. And they may not even say it. They may just, like, punish you regardless. Like, it's sinful that you even looked at a man, right? Is different than, hey, bitch, you better not be looking at other men. It's two different things. One of them may slap you around the house, but the other is going to gaslight you and take away your food and make you feel shame for it. That's the religious one. It's not to say that a secular sociopath couldn't do something like that, or a narcissist couldn't do something like that. They certainly are capable of it, but it wouldn't really be to the point of death, and it also generally wouldn't be, even if it's submissive master dynamics, it generally wouldn't be, quote unquote, a couple. Right? Now, that isn't to say that that's because the couple would maybe, well, why didn't you just stand up to your master? It's like, because she's the submissive. Right? And that isn't to say always that it would be that the hierarchy of the patriarchy, but in religious circumstances, almost universally it is, which is why when familicide happens, religious fathers often are behind it, or when familicide happens with women, but they usually, like, women will kill their children, men will kill their wife and their children if they're doing familicide, right? So this wasn't familicide, but there's a different type of religious familicide, right? It's like, it's justified under God. Like, God told me to do it is always or very often, not always, but very often, even in cases of psychotic thinking and magical delusional thinking, very often, quote unquote, God is at the core of it. And it isn't so much God is at the core of it. It's the feeling of God as it has been constructed by the rules of someone who has already indoctrinated you with those rules, has taught you, or the magical perceptions thereof if it's a psychotic situation, because then, all bets are off. But anyways, that's just my little thought about religion and familicide and murdering your kids for religious reasons. Have you guys seen the movie Carrie? Like, that's the type of person that's going to take your food away and kill you. Family says Amazon shipped fake product, refuses refund until correct item is returned. What? All right, let's just read it just because I'm curious. Let's get clickbaited. Race is not a factor here at all. When Matthew Legelt graduated from high school in June, his parents figured they'd recognize his hard work by buying the parts needed to build his own personal computer. But bro, did you really get scammed, or your parents stupid? Oh wow, it's actually a fake graphics card filled with a putty-like substance to provide weight. That's so bad, dude. Like, why even bother at that? Like, here's what I don't understand. Really, why bother going through why bother going through this to create this? If it's completely fake, like, why not just send them a literal rock? It's just a piece of plastic, so I doubt there's any danger to their employees. Huh? Huh. This is a weird story. Okay, here's the real story. Look at this. Right, and this is actually why I clicked it, just to see what it was really about. It's about attacking the industry, and we should be. I'm surprised that they don't include something about China, about how they have the slaves there working. And I don't use that word lightly. But like, look at these people. Do these people look like they're making a fair market wage? They might be. Depends on your opinion on industrial workers. And it depends on how much you know about Amazon. And it also depends on how much you know about Seattle politics. And it also depends on how much you know about the shipping industry in general in my country. A fun fact, and this is just something that has nothing to do with really anything, but you could look at the license plate numbers on every single mail truck, and you will never find one. Seriously, if you don't believe me, go outside next time your mail truck goes by and try to find out what their license plate is. Good luck. Family says Amazon shipped fake product. We just read that. Trump owed hidden debt while in office. Normally I'd say this is not I mean, like, it's past tense, so it's like it's not a problem. It's only a problem because, like, that means that someone had power and influence over the president of the United States that wasn't disclosed to Congress or to whoever that it's supposed to be disclosed to. That's a problem. Thousands applied, but fewer than 250 qualified for Pennsylvania's marijuana pardon. Well, I don't know what the pardon was. I mean, it should be just a universal pardon. Obviously, it's not. My guess is that this is a story about race, because it may disproportionately affect people of color, because it may be written into the law, as it was in New York, to specific. I'm actually not sure that it did mention race in New York. I know it mentioned people who were directly affected by, but I think it went further and did actually speak of reparations, and I think it made, and I'm not sure if it did very specifically in New York mention race, but the implication was that it was going to go to help, disadvantaged individuals. Let's actually look that up, because I'm in New York. That's why I'm curious about this. Let's get sidetracked. I have no idea if African Americans is the right way to search this, because like I know that the law itself probably wouldn't use the term people of color. I also don't know if we're allowed to still use the word people of color. I don't know where we're at. And like, black people seemed racist. Okay. New York's existing marijuana laws disproportionately affect the African American and Latinx communities. This monumental legislation will decriminalize small amounts of marijuana and establish procedures for record expungement for both past and future convictions. Communities of color have borne the... So when I say explicit, this is the New York State Senate Gov. They were very fucking specific that it was a race issue. Right? So this isn't me just espousing racism and conspiracy. And that's one of the reasons I looked this up, because I've been accused of that. And like, that's absolutely not the case. Like, race matters. Some people try to pretend that it doesn't, but it does. And when you speak about it responsibly, this is what it can look like. So to give you some background in New York, so let's see if that's how it is here, because it may actually just be this is a racist policy and I don't know, because if this is a huge if, I'm not trying to say that it is, we haven't read yet, so it may not be, but if the policy said something like Asians are excluded, if you were convicted and you were Asian, you can't do it. Obviously that'd be unconstitutional, but that may not necessarily mean shit to the people who are doing it. So let's say, they were denied because they did not meet the requirements of the project and were held under advisement, meaning the board can vote on them at a later date. Okay, that's fine. But what is the advisement? Okay, blah, blah, blah. I'm just stretching. And 434. I was looking for that as if it was like I just have dyslexia. But why didn't they qualify? The Pennsylvania Marijuana Pardon Project was a first of its kind project with a goal to pardon large amounts of people with select minor non-violent marijuana crimes implies the existence of violent marijuana crimes, which I refuse to think exist. There's no such thing as a violent marijuana crime. There's gun crime committed because money was involved, and that money may have been involved with marijuana. But that's a different crime than violent marijuana crime. Criminal conviction. Maybe someone can find me an example of something where I was like, all right, I'm wrong. That's violent marijuana crime. But since the governor cannot unilaterally issue pardons, so I read adult size because I read legalize and I read adult, so I read adult size. It's just how my brain, I would say, works, but it's how my brain glitches out. Often cannabis consumers get multiple convictions when they are arrested at the first time. And that's bullshit. NORML is a group that tries to normalize, cannabis use and all that, drugs and all that. They get a paraphernalia charge, which is bullshit. That's fucked up. 10% conviction of 13,000 people that are arrested. It's fucked up, bro. Even 1% is fucked up if it's for marijuana. They had a reason. This is a really good point. They had a because one of the things that people always say is, well, it doesn't matter. No one would ever really care anyway. It's like, that's not true. And it can actually seriously affect things. All right, let's keep reading. So we don't really know why they were why that they did not get approved. We don't know if it was a race thing. We don't know what it was about. We had no indication. Colorado grandmother sues police. We also have no evidence to suggest it was racist, by the way. Colorado grandmother sues police detective following SWAT raid based on false Find My Phone ping. Good. They need to stop being able to, first of all, ping your phone. Colorado grandmother sues detective following SWAT raid. I mean, yeah, this is what you'd expect. Some pretty striking imagery there.
She was hiding a stolen truck with guns, money, drones, and an iPhone.
No, nobody else is in the house.
Does she look like she's up to no good?
Wow.
She's chilling.
See, like everybody in Mount Bella should have been able to hear because it was just that loud. And I never heard nothing like that before.
Where do you think she's hiding the rifle?
From that day on,
Where do you think she's hiding the iPhone?
to be home alone.
At nighttime, it's kind
So she's got PTSD, blah, 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 blah. So white people raid black people. News at 12. So let's see. So they pinged the phone and it pinged near her allegedly? That's fucking insane, dude. You could just tell the cops, here's what happened. Allegedly. Some dude used an app, allegedly, and told the cop, he allegedly told the cop, and then the cop allegedly got that. Well, actually, that part really, we probably can find a copy of the affidavit. Yeah, let's find the copy of the affidavit. We could just read this, because this is fucking insane. Like, how the fuck did they get a search warrant for their house based on this stupid app? This is what happens when boomers are judges or they have rubber stamps. Any electronic device capable of storing location information and or communicating with other devices either through data transmission or wirelessly, including cellular, telephones, and tablets. Do you not, do you, like, does that sound normal? Does that sound okay? That's fucking crazy, dude. Any electronic device capable of storing location information. That's anything. And or communicating with other devices, either through data transmission or wirelessly. That's fucking anything. They're going to take everything. They're going to search through everything because some dude allegedly got his car run. That's fucking crazy. I mean, this is all just standard language, but where the fuck does it say? Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. Okay, so he's been a cop for a long time. A lot of training. Okay. Wait, here we go. They contacted a guest who was staying there, Jeremy McDaniel, who told them that his vehicle, but he hadn't used his vehicle. The vehicle was taken without his permission, so they stole his car or knowledge and fled the area. He had 6 firearms, 2 drones, and 4,000 cash in the vehicle when it was stolen. What an idiot. I mean, like, whatever. Like, teach their own, but, like, it seems fucking stupid. But, like, seriously, like, he could be a professional, like, for all I know. I have no idea. Thorough review of responding officers' reports. Your affidavit learned that the vehicle was stolen on the... what? 01/03/2022? Huh? So this happened a long time ago. Your affidavit phoned a number who advised he had an iPhone he left in his truck and he used an app, Find My Phone. The victim related that he utilized Find My Phone app in an attempt to track down his own belongings, and the phone pinged to this house. That's fucking insane, dude. Oh my god, dude. That's absolutely insane. This judge should be disrobed. Because the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses especially, papers, including electronic devices, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, nor shall any warrant issue but upon probable cause, and supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched or the person or thing to be seized. What was reasonable about that search? How is some dude's hearsay about what he allegedly saw, allegedly on his app, allegedly, enough for a judge to be like, yeah, man, go kick their door in? It seems really serious. We could just go kick their door in. That's fucking insane. Let's see what people on Reddit have to say. This is one of the worst things I've seen. This is so bad. This is, like, seriously fucking crazy. This is in Denver? Oh my god, dude. Denver, Colorado. That's so bad, dude. People are talking about how this is the police, but, like, this is on the judge, in my opinion. Seriously. I don't see this mentioned at all. The judge did sign it. Time for a new judge. Seriously. That's crazy, dude. Possible location. It's just... I'm dumbfounded with this one. Oh, boy. That's interesting. I noticed that too. Like, what an idiot. Like, how do you have all your shit in your car like that? Like, all right, let's move on. I'm sorry to take that took up so much time, but that's egregious. Bob McGrath, original Sesame Street cast member, dead at 90. Let's see what he looked like and see if I recognize him. I have no idea who he is, and I don't care. Facebook owner Meta to remove news from his platform if Congress passes media bill. Well, I'm not really sure that they not really sure they should have the news on their site. I don't see why they wouldn't be like allowed to. Ugh, what's the new media bill? Do we have to read this article? Facebook owner, blah 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 blah. Washington, Facebook parent Meta on Monday threatened to remove news from his platform. No one cares. Like, if they pass a proposal aiming to make it easier for news organizations to negotiate collectively with companies like Alphabet, Google, and Facebook. Huh? What are the implications here? Government mandated negotiations that unfairly disregard any value we provide to news outlets through increased traffic and subscriptions. This is such a rabbit hole, dude. This is such a rabbit hole. We're not going down this one, not tonight. Thankfully, this article was super, like, sparse and superficial. But yeah, that's a rabbit hole. What I want to know is, like, who's drafting the next version of, like, the Patriot Act. Like, let me get my eyes on something like that, you know, now that I'm an adult, a little bit older. Because when I was a kid, I couldn't have had a voice in it. And I'm not saying that as an adult my voice will matter, but I'm definitely not a kid. Man who shot Lady Gaga's dog walker gets 21 years in prison. Did he shoot her dead? She died, right? Stealing the French bulldog. Pled to 21 years. The Lady Gaga, I think it was a coincidence. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Authorities have said the motive was the French bulldog's a breed. There was maybe even footage of this. Seriously wounded. I mean, that's bad, but not dead. Yeah, I think there's maybe video of this. I'm not gonna go looking for it, but I have it in my mind like that. I don't know why that stuck out, because the story itself is not that compelling. It's just like kind of what you'd expect, I guess maybe not where you'd expect it, but who you'd expect doing what you'd expect. Low income housing nearby, desperate individual, something oppression and consequences. Florida man restrained by, and that's as polite as I can be. Florida man restrained by officers in jail died by strangulation. What color were the officers? What color was the man? One-eyed, one-eared, flying purple people eaters. Black people obviously are being oppressed. Was it white people that did it? It's not news otherwise. Are the officers named? That's a doctor. 73-year-old. Justifiable. Interesting. It just says one deputy. Well, it wouldn't really be a story if he was white. It just wouldn't. And the reason it's news at all is because it's the death by strangulation of a person of color, and that's only because it's on the heels of George Floyd. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a story. Department of Homeland Security says Real ID deadline to 2025. Yeah, they already know who every single person is, and they can move that deadline as far as they want. all that does is makes it much harder for like people who were not born here to do things. That's really and it's complicated, but they can delay that indefinitely. They don't care. Iranian city shops shut to keep up pressure on clerical rulers. Okay. Huntington Beach school principal dies in apparent suicide at Disneyland. It's an interesting place to kill yourself. Interesting. I wonder why he did it. Was he a pedophile? He served 22 years. Did he write a note? Did it say why? They're not going to release that information. Please remember me for all the good I brought to the world of education. Did he also write that he was a pedo? Let's see. He's been replaced. Facing charges of child endangerment and battery. Okay, so he wasn't a child rapist, but he was a dude who was being accused of something. Whether he did it or not, something pushed him to it. If you or a loved one are experiencing thoughts of suicidality, please call this number. It's not capped, by the way. You really should if you're like gonna literally die instead. Don't call the police. That's also not capped. Don't call the cops. Dearborn man charged. Stop asking me. What is this? Do you want to have a nice and calm hangout? Has it been a lot lately? It's always a lot. When are you free? It's a better message. No more airplane mode EU to allow calls on flight. No, I mean they'll always have airplane mode. They'll just call it like blocking mode or something like that. All airplane mode does is just turn off your antennas. But no more airplane regulations is because I mean I can understand for a while why there was concern that like different devices, like they don't know what the fuck that is. What the fuck could that thing could fuck with all that? Who the fuck knows? So they just said no, but I think it's become, time now that I think it's been pretty obvious for a long time that they're not operating on the same bands, like the same broadcasting bands. And there's no interference. There's no interference of any type. Yeah, I think that's it. Guys, thanks for joining. We have read a bunch of headlines today. We made it to the bottom. We doxed ourselves a little bit on one of my old fake accounts. And yeah. We'll be back again soon. Thanks for joining.